Ermita, Manila. Before the 19th century, Ermita was originally known as Lagyo in Tagalog and was rechristened in the 17th century as La Hermita. On this site was built a hermitage housing an image of the Virgin Mary known as Nuestra Señora de Guia, which has since evolved into Ermita Church. During the 19th century, urban expansion had slowly reached the northern portion of the district, mainly due to the development of the Luneta Park. Ermita then gained renewed prominence as part of Daniel Burnham's City Beautiful movement during the early 1900s as it developed from being the outskirts to being an urban district. The district was once home to Manila's high society and was once filled with large gilded mansions. However, during World War II, between 68% to 85% of Ermita was destroyed during the Battle of Manila, with an estimated total of 100,000 Filipino civilians killed in the city itself. Going to post-war to the present, the district slowly transformed from a residential area into a commercial area as the upper classes moved to other cities such as Quezon City and Makati. Ermita started earning a reputation as the red light district of Manila. Currently, Ermita may not be as glorious as before. However, the city is still alive as ever, with this district being one of the most highly populated districts of Manila and home to many national landmarks and institutional buildings. It is a location that serves a very big community. Ermita is also located in the central part of Manila, adjacent to many significant places, making it a major transport hub as well. This piqued our interest as to how efficient are the two major transport hubs in Ermita, specifically the LRT Central Terminal and the Lawton Park and Ride building. As you can see, the LRT Central Terminal and Lawton Park and Ride building are very close to each other, and a few meters away another mode of transportation can be found, which is the Pasig Ferry Station. So with these three separate transportation hubs, we saw this as an opportunity to come up with our project proposal. Our project proposes to connect the Central Terminal, Lawton Park and Ride, and Pasig Ferry Lawton Station to one another to provide a seamless interchange of multimodal transportation for commuters. Moreover, we will redesign the Central Terminal and Lawton Park and Ride to integrate necessary facilities to improve commuter experience from their waiting time until their departure to their chosen mode of transportation. To put it simply, our two goals are to provide connectivity between different modes of transport and to improve the quality of different modes of transportation. Later on, we will show our different strategies as to how we plan to achieve these goals. The current LRT Central Terminal has 3 floors. Starting from the topmost floor is the platform waiting area, which lacks seating areas for commuters waiting for the train. There are at least 2 wide exits from the platform area, going down to the second floor. However, foot traffic still becomes a problem since no escalators are placed to speed up the egress of commuters. The second floor has the ticketing area with a limited number of ticketing booths. According to commuters, it was often crowded with long lines before the pandemic due to the large volume of commuters in the station. Reaching the ground floor, there are a lot of commercial spaces for both stores and food establishments. Small food stalls are more common with meals that cost less than 50 pesos, which is friendly to the daily commuter. The ground floor is quite poorly lit with cars parked inside the main entrance, which blocks an efficient movement within the structure. As for the Park and Ride building, it is currently not operational and used by the local government as an employment office and a headquarters for a local government organization. The side of the building near the Met Theater, which is also known as Dr. Basa Street, is not safely paved and pollution can be seen by the gutters. Looking at the exterior of the building itself, it is a large, worn-out building with faded colors and a weak integration of the Art Deco style. Based on our research, the Park and Ride building sits on the lot of Mahan Garden, just like the Met Theater, which has an Art Deco style. This is because it is a historical site designed by Juan M. Arellano, and as for the Park and Ride not to look alienating beside the Met, it had to follow the same design style as well. After researching and seeing the site itself, we can see that the location is actually near a lot of green spaces and historical sites. These qualities determine the strength and opportunities of the site. However, it's important to note that the site is also close to the Pasig River and has a relatively low elevation, making it a high flood risk area. An improper garbage disposal occurs in the area, making the situation even worse. So with all these observations, we turn to look at what would make an efficient multimodal terminal. In Hong Kong, their best approach in line with their transportation is due to the low car ownership, well-coordinated, scheduled, and integrated modes of travel, and nodes or hubs are connected to several networks for easy transfer of different modes. As you can see in this map of Hong Kong's metro system, they have 11 railway lines with 98 stations. However, what makes their stations more efficient is that majority of their stations have an available interchange of modes of transportation such as taxis and buses that are all scheduled together, and the schedules are shown all over the stations. This ensures continuous movement of traffic in Hong Kong to prevent congestion and the buildup of passengers. We plan to integrate the concept of having a coordinated LRT, bus, jeep, and taxi schedules for our project to provide an interconnected transport system. Another great transport system is in Singapore. They have a physical integration like secured walkways connecting different modes of transportation. They also have real-time data and appropriate signages and a very efficient ticketing system. Singapore currently has 6 MRT lines with a future expansion of 2 more lines as shown in this map. They have a very interconnected railway system with a consideration of making each station size in accordance with the research on the volume of passengers for the location. They also often see opportunities to integrate stations with commercial areas like malls in order to make the commuter experience more seamless in going to their destinations. This is why for our project, we aim to integrate an indoor walkway from one terminal to another to make the walk paths of commuters continuously indoors for their comfort and safety. Going back to our locale, last 2018, the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, also known as the PITX, was open to the public. It is the first integrated and multimodal terminal in the southwestern part of the metro, serving as a transfer point among provincial buses from Cavite, Batangas, and in-city modes of transportation such as jeepneys, bus, taxi, UV Express, and point-to-point buses. Many commuters noted the good things about the terminal such as computerized ticketing or booking systems, shops, amenities, and the park and ride system. However, commuters also said some of the cons of the terminal such as its inefficient location since it is not located along EDSA where usual public transport vehicles pass by. Commuters also complained about the long waiting times for the buses and the presence of colorm vehicles in the terminal as well. So, from this case study, we learned to provide more seating areas for passengers, show transportation schedules all around the terminal, and integrate commercial areas. After recognizing the pros and cons of an effective multimodal transport system, we look towards the City Hub's vision of interchange as a basis of our framework. This framework talks about how an effective interchange has 4 main aspects, which are social, urban, governance, and technology. As for our own framework, we came up with 3 main aspects that create an efficient multimodal transport exchange. The first aspect is operational, which deals with technology, innovation, and how accessible information is. The second aspect is physical, which includes connectivity and accessibility, as well as the comfort and safety of commuters. The third and the last aspect is institutional, which talks about time efficiency and cost efficiency of the transport exchange. After coming up with our own definition of what an efficient multimodal transport system would be, we started to speculate on our vision for the redesign of the 2 major transport hubs we are dealing with. For the central terminal, we aim to have an information booth which includes the time of arrival and departure of the LRT system. We also aim to have commercial areas, bicycle parking, and a safe sidewalk for pedestrians. As for the Lawton Park and Ride, we aim to have the same amenities as well. However, with the consideration of physically integrating the structure to nearby landmarks such as the Met and the Arceus Forest Park at ground level to make it a strategic location. Through a bubble diagram, we organized the spaces that needed to be in transport terminals and also visualized how they would connect to one another. So the Lawton Park and Ride and the LRT Central Terminal would have a direct connection to each other while having a common connection to the Pasig Ferry Station, which is further away. Our party diagram summarizes our agenda in a simple drawing, which is to connect and to provide an efficient interchange. We wanted to highlight the point of intermodal interchange as they go from one terminal to the other because that is the main thing of our proposal. For the design of the park and ride, we started by dividing the spaces into three, which is the terminal, parking, and amenities. Next, we elevated the private parking in order to make space for the terminal on the space below. The third step was to articulate the overall silhouette and facade. Finally, we expanded the private parking in order to accommodate more parking spaces and added another floor dedicated to the amenities of the building. Meanwhile, our design of the LRT station started with the division of the 3 floors according to different uses. So the ground floor is the commercial area, the second floor is the ticketing area, and the third floor is for the train platforms. After that, we articulated the form in order to achieve a cohesive design when put together with the Lawton Park and Ride. For the connection, we were speculating on either using an underpass or an overpass-like bridge typology. Starting with an underpass, it consumed less floor area for the structure since it is underground. However, the site is flood-prone so an underpass could flood. Moreover, there would be poor ventilation and limited natural lighting. The view for people walking will also be limited, which would be a waste considering our site is rich with landmarks nearby. This is why we opted to use an overpass-like bridge. It resembles a ramp so that it would be low impact compared to the usage of stairs and can be PWD friendly as well. This connection connects the park and ride to the LRT Central Terminal without having to exit either building. It has an Art Deco motif and is enclosed with glass to retain the cool air conditioning from the buildings to provide comfort for the commuters. For the facade of the Park and Ride building, which had to retain an Art Deco style because of the building regulations in the area, initially we used Art Deco features like steel-framed windows, arched doors, rounded corners, and curved overhangs. The use of curved and rounded features was to encourage movement in the design of the structure in contrast to the Met Theater design, which is more rigid since it is a more formal structure. We looked into the site context of what types of Art Deco features in Manila are used. We looked at the Rizal Memorial Stadium as it used rounded walls as well as emphasized its entrance. The First United building used the steel-framed windows, and the old Jai Alai building made use of a cylindrical centerpiece supported by vertical columns and circular windows. So, for our final iteration, we added vertical columns, rounded windows, and an emphasis on the center door of the terminal with an ornamental tower-like design to accentuate the entrance. The curved facade of the building also expands the view of the people inside the building, taking advantage of the scenic location of the site as well. So, going to the floor plans, starting with the site development plan, we can see that the Park and Ride building is located along Taft Avenue and is beside Dr. Bassett Street. The LRT Central Terminal can be accessed through Antonio Villegas Street. These two structures are connected to one another through a short elevated enclosed bridge in the back, in the middle. This connection connects the first floor of the Park and Ride building to the second floor of the LRT Central Station. The ground floor of the Park and Ride building has the indoor area and the loading and unloading areas found outside for the different types of vehicles. The entrances of the vehicles, except for the bus, are located by Taft Avenue while the bus enters through Antonio Villegas Street and the back. We made this configuration in order to lessen the amount of vehicles entering Antonio Villegas Street since it is narrow. The vehicular entrances via Taft Avenue is 3. One for the private vehicles going inside the park, one for the entering taxi and private cars to load and unload, and the last entrance is for the UV Express and jeepneys. Going into the interior of the Park and Ride, the entrances are located both on the front and the rear of the structure. The entrance at the front has 7 double doors which open to 2 wide staircases which lead to the second floor, but going under these staircases will lead you to the ticketing booths. After the ticketing booths, commuters may stay at the waiting area or opt to go to the second floor via the escalator seen on the right side. The rear part of the ground floor also includes the restrooms as well as the bridge that connects the building to the LRT Central Terminal. For the Central Terminal, it faces Antonio Villegas Street and it has bike parking on both sides of the front of the structure with the main entrance located in the middle. On the left side, behind the bike parking, is a convenience store and behind it is a large space for the private offices of the station. Beside the office is the information booth where commuters and tourists can ask about Ermita Manila and also train schedules. On the second floor of the Park and Ride building, the majority of the floor is taken up by the large food court. Behind the food court is a sitting area which faces the entrance to the parking area. The rear of the second floor has the private areas for the workers of the building, such as the offices and the office cafeteria. As for the parking area, which starts on the second floor of the building, it has 22 slots for car parking and 54 slots for motorcycle parking. Going to the LRT station, the second floor has the ticketing booths for both the left and right side. And the center part can only be accessed when passengers have a ticket because the stairs and escalators in the middle lead to the platform waiting area on the third floor. The third floor of the Park and Ride building is just another floor entirely for parking with 72 slots for car parking and 57 slots for motorcycle parking. As for the LRT station, the third floor is the platform waiting area with a number of seating areas for passengers waiting for the train to arrive. The entrance and the exit through this floor is through escalators and stairs side by side to speed up foot traffic during the arrival of passengers. The ground level connection from the Park and Ride building to the Pasig Ferry Station starts from the rear of the Park and Ride building before climbing up the bridge to the LRT Central Terminal. An exit can be found to the left, heading towards the direction of the Met Theater. A pedestrian lane can be found from crossing the Park and Ride building area to the big walkable area behind the Met Theater, which consists of lush greenery, a fountain, food stands, and benches. A bike lane is also provided to allow bikers to access the Jones Bridge safely. From the walkable area behind the Met Theater, there is a pedestrian lane that leads to the opposite side to the Pasig Ferry Station, and the sidewalk directly connects the pedestrian lane to the Pasig Ferry Station. So, this is how the spaces look like in section view. In the Park and Ride, the interior spaces include the ticketing, waiting, and commercial areas to the right side. Meanwhile, the entire ground floor to the left is allocated for the public terminal, and the floors above the terminal are for the private parking. In this section view of the LRT Central Terminal, it is shown how the use for each space differs per floor level. For the ground floor, which is the main access from the street level, there's the bicycle parking and the commercial spaces. The entire second floor is for the ticketing, while the third floor is where the train platforms are. To conclude, Ermita Manila has a great opportunity to be one of the major transport hubs in Metro Manila as it caters to a large volume of commuters. Our design interconnects the different modes of transportation such as land, railway, and ferry while putting the safety and comfort of our commuters as a priority without forgetting the historical and scenic context of our site. With our proposal, we were able to catch a realistic vision that achieving intermodality does not have to be grand, but it does have to be designed with a mindset that commuting is an experience, and we can make it a memorable and pleasant experience, especially with a site rich in art and history like Ermita Manila.